This is Grimm Grinner on all channels.
Hey there, wastelanders.
Don't you fucking quit on me now!
News of violent attack catch you all as the phoenix rises from the ashes. Welcome to the wastes. Good evening, everyone. Grimm Grinner here on all channels, broadcasting out of the network. Wastelanders, I've talked a lot in the past about the world before the fall. The way things were and how it all crumbled. How we all turned from living in comfort and relative peace before the ferals and the walls went up. And it's good to keep those stories and memories alive. But something I don't hear a lot of people discuss out there in the wastes is what happened after the fall, when the world was shattered and we began to leave our shelters to try and carve out something new from the ashes of the old. And with everything that's happened over the past while, it's had me thinking about who I was when I emerged to see the sun and feel the wind again. I've talked about my time at the Dripping Rose and about my first encounter with Praxis. But those were still a long while after I had been wandering the wastes. Those were when I began learning who I was and who I could be, before I became this voice of the wastes. But who was I before those? I just got back from a small personal salvage run that put me a bit closer to the Gat than I would like to be, but I was able to recover something extremely important and made it out without being caught in a creep sniper's sights. You all know my voice from these broadcasts, ever since CJ was able to get the transmitters running. But what you don't know is that there's been a small transmission on a broken loop inside a worn down and desiccated station with such a weak signal, all not too far from where a small community of wastelanders used to live, maybe a few hundred clicks out from the walls of the Gat. Originally, I was trying to use the equipment to try and find more people, but when the community got sacked and the wastelanders there dispersed, the transmitter was damaged and it could no longer reach as far as it needed to, which was probably for the best, since it would have just pulled people into danger. I was able to get into the ruins of that old station and get my hands on the transmitter and equipment that had my old broadcast on it, as well as the small solar cell that's surprisingly held up enough to keep it on loop these long years. It's funny, I actually gave it a listen on my way back to Burblack, and so many memories came flooding back from that time. The way broadcasts from the Gat sounded, down to still remembering some of the wastelanders I camped with back then. I wonder where some of them are now. Anyways, without more rambling, I thought I would share this with you all as a glimpse into what things were like in those early months after the fall. Either way, this is... Shit, almost broke the first rule. No old world names. This is, Grimm Grinner, transmitting on all frequencies. Is there anyone out there? Anyone? Well, if there is anyone, and you can hear me, I'm transmitting to let you know that there's safety out here. I'm part of a small community, maybe a few hundred clicks or so from the eastern walls of the Gat. We've been calling it Haven. We have shelters set up and are in the process of building defensive fences to help keep ferals from getting in. Some of us have medical and farming experience, and there are even a few soldiers who have been training everyone in survival and combat tactics. There's a few dozen of us right now, and we're working on getting a few old cars and stuff working again so we can try and help if you need it. I don't know really much else to say. I was just kind of sent out here because I had some radio experience from back in high school, and Mazzy figured I could get the message out. If anyone's out there, anyone really, just know that we're all as lost as you. I don't know what's going on since the bombs dropped, but from what I've heard, a fair amount of corporate bunkers actually withstood the blasts. There's word that farther north is kind of like a rift. Kind of like the skin of the earth has a giant glowing open wound of radiation. I don't know anything about further south yet. Anyone who may be still in a bunker, if you can, I don't know, stay safe and stay there. A lot of the radiation throughout most places has been minimized thanks to some sort of tech the corporations put in place when they put the walls up. But there's a lot of other stuff out here that's now dangerous, like ferals. Bombs didn't really get rid of them, and they seem to have adapted out here. It's really kind of scary. There's also some sort of corporate enforcement squad of some kind that I heard is just picking up random people and taking them sometimes against their will, which really doesn't seem right. Between them, the ferals, and small groups of people who've gone all crazy and become raiders, feels like there's almost more danger than when before everything went to shit. I've heard of a few people around Haven referring to the world now as the wastes, which is fitting. I'm pretty sure Haven used to be a small town that was probably lovely to live in, with small shops and a cafe on the corner. Now it's just a husk, hollowed out and blown over. At least until the folks who decided to call it Haven arrived. I know it's going to be a long time before we can call it home, and even longer before there's a cafe on the corner again. But I have faith that we can do it one day. Looks like the hard drive on this little computer is set to keep a recording of this broadcast, so I might set it on loop in case anything happens. I've rambled enough for today. Hopefully someone out there hears this, and if you do, I don't know, send out your own broadcast calling for Haven. This has been it. Grimm Grinner, transmitting on all frequencies. Gods, I sounded so fresh back then. I mean, I was. Still thought that the corporations weren't as bad as they are, and still didn't know what it was really like out in the wastes. Think I maybe spent a bit too much time waiting in the bunker before leaving. Hell, that broadcast was maybe a year or two after I finally left. Met up with Mazzy. God, I haven't spoken his name in far too long. Wonder if he ever made it somewhere else. Or if any of the others made it. Well, Wastelanders, this was just the smallest part of my story, but it feels good to get it out there. It's a reminder of who I was after the fall, and it helps put in perspective who I am now. With more communities and outposts connecting through the network, I've started seeing that hope I had back then, the hope that we can all pull through the darkness that has run rampant over the world and bring a bit of humanity back. Anyways, enough of my rambling for one night. CJ got word that a handful of people are getting together at the new liquor box in a few days for a small celebration of sorts, now that they have the power up and running and the walls finished being fortified. I've been put in charge of helping get the shipment from the Capper vineyard there safely, so I could use a good night's sleep before hitting the road. This has been Grimm Grinner, voice of the wastes, broadcasting via the network, on all frequencies. See you in the wastes. Welcome to The Wastes is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson. Feel free to follow me on all social media. Make sure to subscribe so you can hear new episodes as they release. If you like what I do here and want to support the podcast by getting some cool merch, check out my Etsy store. For more information and all the links, check out linktree.com/welcome to the wastes. Thanks for listening.